Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. All right. Welcome to the last class of the semester. Y'all made it. Your kids made it. I think that's a huge achievement. I know that when you have kids, your life revolves around the school schedule, right? So once you get past that, you're getting into that December, mid-December, you're like, okay, we did it. We're almost there. Okay, so before we get started, I had said something last week about selfishness, right? And everything that we do is for our own happiness. Did y'all have time to think about that? As in, do you think that Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism is a religion of selfishness? Because that's what I told you last week, though.
No, it's not.
How is it not?
I mean, in the day-to-day life, yes, it does seems to be like that.
Yes.
You're trying to pursue happiness.
Yes.
All the things what you do, what you look for.
Okay, so he says, in case people can't hear, he says in day-to-day life, that seems to be what we're doing because we're trying to pursue happiness. But
essentially, if you are in the path of spirituality, you try to move away from pursuing the happiness.
okay.
So,
Okay.
essentially, you try to see yourself you see yourself with everybody, right? Oneness.
Yes.
So that's all about Sanatana Dharma.
Okay, so eventually, what he said is eventually, if you remain on this spiritual path, you begin to see oneness. And in seeing that oneness, where is selfishness? It in fact becomes selflessness. Because the self itself doesn't exist. You're giving that up. Right? That ego, that ahankara is being given up. Thank you. Thank you for answering. And that's what a lot of students come, especially in college. I remember asking Swamiji, right? Like, oh, you're saying that, Hinduism is asking, like it resonates with us, right? Yeah, of course I want happiness. Of course I'm chasing happiness. But then you think about it, well, does that mean that we're all just really selfish beings? What's the difference between us and animals, right? Or why should I follow Hinduism, right? There's so many other religions that are out there. Maybe I should look into those. And that's when you dig deeper and realize that in Sanatana Dharma, the one thing that many other religions hold to be true, which is that ahankara or that ego itself is finished, is destroyed, right? And in that destruction, it's actually a beautiful thing of expansion. In this world, we tend to see destruction as something terrible, right? But the other side of destruction is rebirth, kind of like a phoenix. And growing up, we were taught to remember God easily. The generator, the operator, and the destroyer. And then as I got older, the kids would come and I'm like, okay, what did you guys learn in Balavihar? They're like, well, we don't use destroyer anymore, we use recycler. I'm like, but that doesn't start with D. That was the point of it, right? Because we have this fear of destruction and death and all these words that seem, but that's a very Western concept, right? And again, by Western, I just don't mean this side of the hemisphere. I mean that kind of thinking. It doesn't matter where you live. It's in your thoughts now. So it is the destruction of the ego. You're not recycling the ego. The ego needs to go away. And then you have expansion. And it's not selfishness, it's selflessness. Okay, I'm glad we're all thinking about this. And if you didn't think about it, I'm sure your kids will, right? And that's why I push harder for us to think, and I push myself to think. Because sometimes I grew up with certain ideas, and I'm like, yeah, of course. And then the kids ask me questions, and I'm like, I don't know. Let me get back to you. And trust me, I don't know is a better answer than making up some lie or saying you just have to, because then you lose your credibility. If you just say, I do it because I tell you, then it becomes an authority telling you to do something. And when you're on your own, you're left to your own devices, you say, of course, I don't believe this. The only reason I did it is because I was forced to, but now I don't have a reason to. But when I learn it in the first place and I have a reason to do it, then usually, at least, I try to remember that reason when I'm on my own. And every person in the world eventually has to be on their own, whether it's earlier or later in life. I know initially, people would grow up, stay in the same household, and then you get married and you have, the woman usually leaving. Rarely the man leaves. They did do that, though. In some situations, they do that. But you go from one atmosphere, environment with a lot of people and dictating things about how you live to another one. It's not the case anymore, right? Many times you have this middle gap where you've tried to figure out who you are, right? Whatever that means. Whether that means staying out all night and not sleeping or whatever it is, it's a time to explore and self-discovery and all of that. And what happens after that? You have to reintegrate into, if you choose to have a family life, into family life. So what happens there? You're not only having to readjust yourself with another human being called a spouse, but then you're building a new environment for your children. And then that's when people come back to Balavihar. So many of us are, I think my generation and older actually, they went through Balavihar. You think you're a graduate of Balavihar, yeah. So there are people who have kids now that went through Balavihar, but there's usually a gap for us, right? There's a gap between 12th grade and having kids, however long that is. And that's when you really, it's a golden time, I think, for us here, because you really figure out what your values are. And if you don't, you'll be forced to do it later on, right? There's no way around it. Because once your kids come, because I said so doesn't work anymore, right? And maybe it didn't work for you all. I was a pretty meek kid for a while, and that worked for me. I had the fear of my mother in my head until college, and then I would question, and she was like, why did I even send you to college? But we don't have a choice, right? Education comes with critical thinking. Hopefully the critical thinking is genuine and not manufactured, because we have to be careful about that too. We think it's free thought, but really thoughts are being put into our heads, right? So, whenever I say something and we talk about something, about Sanatana Dharma, I hope you take the time to actually think and question, right? And come back with questions or discuss with other people, right? Discuss with your friends and your spouses and your kids. Be like, hey, we talked about this in class today. What do you think? I'm sure they'll have more questions. And bring it back, because that's the point of coming to class. I know you may think it's because you're forced to be here, but the reality is that if we choose to engage in every situation, whatever that situation is being forcing us to do, there's a possibility of learning something, right? I'm forced to stay up at night because my child didn't finish the homework or my child isn't sleeping. Okay, I guess it's time for japa because I can't use my phone in front of them, right? So you do your japa at that time. Whatever it is, try to make the best of it, right? That's why I push us to question. I'm not just trying to kill time and ramble. Okay, verse 3. We'll do lead and repeat. What's the tune again? Vakyarthascha vicharyatam shruti-shiraha. Vakyarthascha vicharyatam shruti-shiraha. Pakshas-samashriyatam. Pakshas-samashriyatam. Dustarkat suviramyatam shruti-matah. Dustarkat suviramyatam shruti-matah. Tarkonusandhiyatam. Konusandhiyatam. Brahmasmiti vibhavyatam aharaha. Brahmasmiti vibhavyatam aharaha. Garva parityajyatam. Garva parityajyatam. Dehasmiti rujihyatam buddhajanaihi. I messed up. Let's try again. Deheham matirujhyatam buddhajanaihi. Deheham matirujhyatam buddhajanaihi. Vada parityajyatam. Vada parityajyatam. I looked at the English to try and see if it broke it up better, and then I lost my place. I'm going to stick with the Sanskritam. Okay, so what does this verse say? Nothing is new. Everything is repetitive. That is clear. That's why you can miss a class and come back and be like, didn't we just do this 2 classes ago? Yeah, we did. Because that's what Vedanta teaches us. It reminds us that the pull of the body, mind, and intellect on this ego is so strong that a reminder once a week is not enough. So we keep going and we try to do it every day. So, Vakyarthascha vicharyatam. Shruti-shiraha. Again, from the last verse, we talked about Shruti-shiraha. What is the crown of our Shastras? Upanishads. And what is it that the Upanishads say? That Vakya, that's what it's saying, reflect ever upon the meaning of the commandments of the Upanishads. Paksha samashriyatam. Ashraya. Take refuge in those words. Take refuge in the truth of the Brahman as given by the Upanishads. We'll look at that deeper this time. Next line, just so we know what it means in general. Dustarka suviramyatam. I just talked to you about asking questions, right? Except, it says, avoid perverse arguments. Why? Because it's a waste of time and energy. And we usually know, maybe it's a little after the fact, when we're arguing for the sake of ego and when we're arguing for the sake of learning and knowledge. Most of our arguments happen for the ego. Most of them. And it takes me a while later and I'm like, oh, maybe they were right. They were right. I shouldn't have gotten this upset. They were right. I shouldn't have gotten this nervous, this anxious, whatever it is. But in that moment, it was a challenge to my ego. A simple thing. We were soaking beans or whatever for, the day before in order to make dal the day after, right? And my husband fills up the water all the way to the top of it, right? It's late at night. I'm angry. I'm tired. I'm frustrated with the baby. Baby's not sleeping. Why did you fill it up so high? You know it's going to spill over. You don't need to, why? Okay. And then he's like, oh, really? Okay. But he left it alone because he's my husband and he doesn't care. So he left it alone, went back to work, whatever he was doing. Next morning, the first thing I look at is that bowl. And has it spilled over? No. It has not spilled over. It was plenty of space for the water and the dal, like it was chana dal or something, to soak. And then he looks at me. He's like, did you look at the bowl? I was like, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. That's it, right? Now think back, right? At that night, if we chose to have that argument, it would have been a horrible idea. I'm glad we didn't. But at that point, it wasn't about the water and the beans and nothing. It was just, I'm in a bad mood, right? I'm frustrated. I'm tired. That argument was a dustarka. Now, look at the other side. Even if I was right, what is the worst that would happen? Would the house explode? There would be some water on the ground to clean up with a paper towel. Oh my God. That is the other side of it, even if I was right. And that's a small argument. But we know sometimes it's the small arguments at the wrong time that add up, right? So this dustarka is something like that. It's the small moments. And it's usually the moments that we are so stuck in it, we don't realize what we're doing, and it takes some time and perspective, right, to back up and be like, that's a dustarka. I don't need to be having that argument right now. It's usually when people question our judgment, right? Oh, you don't know. Oh, I don't know? Well, let me tell you. So, dustarka suviramyatam. Okay, fine. But let's say we want to have a decent conversation, a discussion, and there's a difference, right, between an argument and a discussion. Then what do we use, or what should we use as our base? Shruti mataha tarkonu sandhiyatam. Follow the discriminative rationale of the Shruti. Shruti mataha, the mati, the rationale of the Shruti. Use that. What is Shruti? Not some lady named Shruti. Shruti is Shastras. Now, Shastras won't tell you how much to fill water in dal, okay? That's not. Now we're talking about deeper things. Talking about how we live our life. When people challenge, again, our lifestyle, our choices in what we eat, what time we sleep, how we spend our, extra time, where we choose to vacation. Oh, you're going to India again? I know some of you just got back from India. Some of you are headed there for vacation, right? December time. Maybe you feel that way. Oh, we have to go to India again. Do we really need to see? Whatever choices we make, nothing is wrong or right. It's a choice that you make with your family, right? What do our Shastras tell us? Unfortunately, we've come into the habit of needing research and studies and science to back it up, as though this is something secondary and science comes first. I studied biology, I studied science, okay? I'm not just trying to bash it. There's so much beauty. I still love my genetics class. There's so much to learn from genetics and epigenetics. And microbiology, I was in there making all these agar plates all night, okay? So I love it. But spirituality begins where science ends, always. You look at the deepest thinkers in the science world, it's all going towards the study of consciousness, whether you call it Vedanta or not, right? So, whenever I use examples from science, know that I don't mean to disregard our Shastras. It's a supplement to the Shastras. Shastras are not a supplement to science. Okay, having said that, Shruti mataha tarkonu sandhiyatam. The Shrutis tell us, Matrudevo bhava. We talked about this last week, right? Matrudevo bhava, Pitrudevo bhava, Acharya devo bhava, Atiti devo bhava. All of these should be considered like God. And my husband just a few days ago, he's like, man, the gap between Matrudeva Bhava and Pitrudeva Bhava is wide because there's so much women do that men cannot, right? And I'm like, thank you. You have earned your points for the week, right? And then he's like, no, just think then, the gap between father and Acharya, then Acharya and Atiti, right? Our Shastras give us a way that we need to continue to respect and value relationships in not just society, but our immediate life. Right? And now I come to the Harvard study. It's a longitudinal study, meaning it's been done with the same subjects over a long period of time, right? Decades of time. And they tried to find what makes people happy. Harvard study, so money usually, I don't know, these days the economy is not stable enough to say if you graduate from Harvard you're going to make money. I know that. But it's not money that makes you the most happy. It's not your startup businesses. It's not your creative endeavors. The study shows it's not the number of houses, the number of cars. It's not even necessarily your full, health, right? Health problems. Not also that. What is it? Meaningful relationships in life. That's what it is. Take a moment. How much time do we spend on meaningful, is the key word here, meaningful relationships in our life? I think very little. I think we think, okay, now is my phase to make money, then is my phase to do this, then is my phase, and you don't know how many days you get. You really don't. My parents got back from India about in November after 3 months. A week later, a family member passed away. They went back, literally a week later. While they were there, somebody else passed away. It's just, you have no idea. And both of those individuals were not in the hospital. They were fine, eating what they wanted, doing what they wanted, roaming where they wanted. They were elderly people. They lived a full life. Sadgati praptirastu. But the point being, we try to divide our life into these phases and prioritize other things and put some things on the back burner. Yes, we do have to prioritize, but are we taking the time to prioritize the right things? Our Shastras tell us, Matru Pitru Acharya Atiti. Harvard study tells us the same thing. Meaningful relationships. You can always poke holes and say, well, you don't know my relationship with my family. It's not meaningful. Okay. Okay. I'm speaking in generally, but each one of us needs to find that. Maybe you had some host parents somewhere when you were in college and they were like your parents. And they're like grandparents to your kids. Sure, make that your meaningful relationship, right? So when we make decisions in life, when we choose our lifestyles, what is at the core? When people question our decision, oh, you're doing this at this time? Why? Again, India? Not just the Shastras, but we should feel it, right? That there's only so much time. And I read I don't know, the holidays, all these articles that come up on your feeds and everything, I'm not even talking about social media, I'm just talking about the news in general, right? Like HuffPost, this, that. It's all about family and family dynamics. But there was somebody who counted the number of holidays that they had left with their parents. And that's how it ends up being a countdown. That's what life happens. And that's such a different perspective. Because we think we have till forever. And it's like, okay, we see them 2 times a year, 1 time a year, and then maybe they live to the average age of, and they did the calculations. In my house, it was like, you never talk about people dying. That's how it was in my house. I'm like, but we will. But it's a reality, right? And I never had read something that was so poignant, where it was like, you know what? Yeah. Luckily, actually, I read that several years ago. And I had made a decision. I was on a 2-week trip doing an internship in India, in Chennai. My family lived in Bangalore, family meaning my grandparents. I took that 1 weekend we had and saw my grandfather, came back, and that was the last time I saw him. That was it. If I hadn't made that trip, it would have been definitely years before, that I had seen him. So, the Shastras aren't some random, outdated, useless document. The Shastras tell us how to live life so we can live without regrets, without what ifs and thises and that's, right? So whenever we are talking about any decision we take at the higher level, what do the Shastras say? Right. I think the most painful thing that you can have at the end of life is regret. Right? And again, I like to read. So there's been articles that talk about people who work at nursing homes, and how the last few regrets people have, they share with the nurses there. And you can read that one on your own. I feel like I'm spending too much time on that topic. But when the Shastras tell us or give us advice, it is best for us to listen to that advice. It is said, Shruti Mata. We don't say Shruti Pita or Shruti Acharya. Shruti Mata is the name. Mata, mother. Why? In fact, Adi Shankaracharya ji goes beyond that. He doesn't say one Mata. It's like 1,000 mothers, he says. Love. The Shastras love us that much. Okay, you keep saying Shastras, Shastras. Who wrote the Shastras? Question. Who wrote the Shastras? They are revelations by realized beings. Gurudev says they are the subjective scientists. And you can call this whatever you want. But you tell me how it's possible without surgery and all of this stuff for someone to sit and literally meditate on the human body and how life comes about and write in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which was by Veda Vyasji, how an embryo develops step by step. Step by step, read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll see. It's being taught by a son to his mother, because he's a realized being. And he tells his mother, okay, in the 3rd month this, 4th month this, 5th month this is how a being comes about, my dear mother. And there again, eventually surgery happened, and you have, I think, Shushruta. And you have multiple surgeons that came about later. But this is Vedavyasji, before that time, right? And what was written is always much later than what was conceived. You can always say, oh, the first proof of written text is this year. How many millennia did it exist before you had to find that book? And how many books were destroyed before that? You go to this old temples in Bharatavarsha now, you go to this Mother Meenakshi temple, you go so many places, you'll see on the wall such faded inscriptions. If the same thing existed in America, you best believe that it would be cherished and every, piece of that stone would be translated, transliterated, the sources found, and 10,000 tourists standing there waiting to tell you behind a glass wall. And we're touching that. Oh, too much vibhuti. So much of this has existed before time for our well-being. I am spending a lot of time on this today because it won't help us hear Aham Brahmasmi if we don't know the value behind it. These are people who have lived, studied, digested, and spit out life, telling us what is good for us. And it doesn't take us having to go through every downfall to realize it. I wish it doesn't take that. But sometimes it does. That's why we have this janma and many janmas before, and hopefully not many after. Right? Somebody was asking Gurudev, I think it was something about vairagya, right? He's like, how do you manage? You come from a very rich background. You had everything. You want it. You used to play badminton and you were a college best this and studying at, I think he studied at Delhi University. He studied journalism. He's very, very well educated. How did you come to this? And he's like, he saw that it was a kid, right, chewing gum back in the day. And you don't talk to elders chewing gum, but he did. And he's like, he's like, you see that gum? What do? Why are you chewing it? Flavors in it? First of all, he was embarrassed because he shouldn't have done that. And he's like, flavors, strawberry, whatever. Okay, how long will you chew it? Till the strawberry flavor runs out. Then what do you do with it? Hopefully, don't swallow it, please. Spit it out. He's like, that is what I have done with this world. I have chewed and chewed and chewed till all the flavor has left and I have spit it out. That's all. I mean, what kind of imagery does that give you? And why, meanwhile, us 5 janmas later, there's still a little bit of strawberry in there. So all these rishis, these mahatmas, they've chewed and chewed and chewed and spit. They're done. And they don't want you to, hurt your jaws and keep chewing for no reason. Dustarka suviramyatam shrutishiraha. Shruti mataha tarkonu sandhiyatam. Shruti mataha tarkonu sandhiyatam. Even in arguments with your own conscience, try to go and seek what the Shruti says. If you feel that you cannot find it, find people who have studied the Shruti. See if you agree with them, if you gel with them, you vibe with them. Because we also have this unfortunate habit of, even if it's golden words coming out of someone's mouth, if we don't like who they are, we don't care. I get made fun of. My husband will say something, and then a few days later, I'll be like, actually, that's not a bad idea. He's like, you saw a reel? You saw a reel on it? Now you're going to trust me? Those reels are all made up. I'm like, no, that's not why. That's not the point. Even the best advice, if it comes out of the wrong person's mouth, we won't take it. So smart people, they know the right thing. They find the right mouth for it to come out of. You won't do it if I tell you. You won't do it if this person. Okay, how about I tell them and then they'll tell you? Isn't that manipulation? Well, are we clear in the mind to be able to look at advice for what it is rather than who it is? There's many Santa Mahatmas, okay? You might not agree with how they choose to live life. They might be sitting there smoking a tobacco or whatever, or chewing tobacco, spitting it, whatever. But they're realized people. They say something, I'm not going to listen to him. He's sitting there, he doesn't have the basic decency of not littering. As though we have never littered. If we're seeking the truth, it doesn't matter whose mouth it comes from. Right? Our likes and dislikes with the person needs to be put aside. And that's very difficult to do. That's why I said, find someone you gel with. I started by saying that. Because even for me, there's so many times like, Swamiji, da-da-da-da-da. Swamiji meaning the Swamiji that I'm comfortable with. He's the one I go to for problems in life. And he'd be like, okay, what did this person say? What did you study? What did you read? I said, this is what I read, but it's this person, and this person said this in the last satsang, and that they're a hypocrite, and I don't want to listen to them. And she's like, oh, you know more than them then. I'm like, well, they did this. What is the message? What is the point? What is the truth you're after? Is that good for you? Do you realize that it's good for you? I'm telling you the same thing. Does that change your mind? What? You agree with them? It's about the truth. It's not about the person. It's not about the instrument or the vehicle in which the message comes, right? Don't shoot the messenger. It's the message. And again, I know it's difficult. I'm there, I've been there, I am still there with many things. Sometimes I need to hear it from Swamiji. Like, didn't I already? Yes, Swamiji, but you know. And he'll be like, okay. Shankla, there's a saying that's said that if it comes out of a shanku, you know a shanku, not a shanku, then it's tirtham. From anywhere else, it can't be tirtham. If it comes from a pujari's, Uddarana, it's not tirtham. It has to come from the shanku. It's a saying. Is it in Kannada? Yeah. What is it? Shankadinda bandrene tirtha. I think in Tamil also they say different languages. So, whatever difficulty we're going through, whatever conflicts we're having, we need to try our best to get out of our own heads as step one. Then to look at our Shastras and not be lazy when we can't find it in the Shastras and seek someone to support us or help us understand what we're going through. People rooted in the Shastras. Right? Dustarka, yes, we all know that. We should avoid Dustarka. That's on us. That's on each one of us to realize, understand where the ego is stepping in, and make sure that we step back. It's a long-term process. Then, Brahmasmiti vibhavyatam aharahaha. Like I said, unless we understand the gravity of what the Shastras are and what they're telling us, this telling me myself, that's what this is saying. Brahma aham asmi iti. I am Brahman iti. Vibhavyatam. Know this. Know this to be true. Aharahaha. Every day, here every minute, every moment, every second, tell yourself you are this Brahman. You have no reason to be sad. You don't have to get elated. You don't have to get humiliated. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to get jealous. None of this belongs to you because you're Brahman. And where does this belong? Garva parityajyatam. It's line by line. Pride. Garva, pride. Renounce, parityajya, tyaga, tyajya, same thing. Paritaha, fully, entirely, not just a little bit. Give up that pride. When we give up the pride, it's easier to know that you're Brahman. If I hold on to the pride, there's no space to understand the truth because it's inflated, right? The ego is inflated. And what are these problems that we have? We've talked about this, but again, deheham. So deha aham. Sandhi makes it deha. So deha aham asmi iti rujyatam. Rujyatam. The misconception that I am this body, buddha janehi vada parityajyatam. Give up this delusory misconception, I am this body. Then it says, give up totally, buddha janehi, wise people, not just men, wise people, this tendency to argue with wise people. For whatever reason, we have a problem with smart people. Oh, you're just trying to be a smart aleck. Right? So then, we take it upon ourselves. It is now my responsibility to put you in your place. Right? Nobody assigns us that role. Okay, you have to make sure there are no arrogant people in this world. Nobody told us that. It's not our job. But anytime there's a smart person, someone who knows more than us, we feel threatened. We want to argue, we want to put them in their place. Here it says, Buddha janehi vada parityajyatam. Just leave it be. Now, but that's not the problem. The problem is they're actually not smart. They think they're smart, so I need to break their delusion. Again, nobody made us everybody's delusion police. We just need to be our delusion police. Right? Give up the false idea that I am this body. That includes mind, intellect, right? Body, mind, intellect. For some of us, we don't care about the body as much. It'll go up and down, but I'm not obsessed with how I look. I'm not going to do these diets. I'm not going to do this facial. I'm not going to do this coloring. I'm not, whatever. I'm happy with who I am. But then somebody insults, I don't really think you were being kind. Me? Me? Not kind? That's the one thing I know I am. Emotionally. The emotion gets to us. Or we're fine with how we look. Yeah, I'm not kind. I am selfish. I'm fine that way. But then somebody comes around and says, that idea you gave is really just an idiotic idea. It's a stupid idea. I spent 3 days coding that program. 3 days. Oh, I know. If that was my husband, he'd be like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. I spent so long on that. Your intellect is challenged. Right? I don't understand coding at all. I'd be like, oh, good job. You don't understand. No. Telling the wrong person. So, not just body, mind, intellect. Where does it pinch most for us and when? Because I think it doesn't, honestly, the body doesn't bother us until we start seeing the gray hairs and the wrinkles. Right? Till then, I don't have a problem with my body. Yeah, of course you don't. You're at the peak. Until you start getting older. And the back pain, and the this, and the that, and the hair fall. I don't care. When I start losing hair, I'm going to go bald. And I'm going to love it. I'm going to look great. I'm going to look younger. And then you go, what is that you ordered on Amazon? Is this oil? For what? I mean, somebody recommended for hair fall. Doesn't become a problem until it becomes a problem. It says Dashrath Maharaj, and this is Tulsi Ramayana, is where I had read it, not the Valmiki one, in case you read that. When does he realize it's time for Ramji to be king, Pattabhishekam? I wish I could remember the Avadhi. So Tulsi Ramayana is a song. It's in Avadhi, and it's so beautiful, but I can't remember it. But he says, it's when he looks in the mirror and he realizes, I have gray hair and I'm getting old. Time for Rama to be king. That's how it's so poetic how he says it. I'm like, wow. And we used to make fun of each other using that line at the Vedanta course. I'd be like, oh, I think that's time. But I can't remember. So that's how he knew. That old, this is Dashrath Maharaj. He can get any kind of dye he wanted in the day. That's not the point. It's because he started realizing, okay, it's time to pass on. It wasn't when he was on his deathbed where he's like, please take this land, I can no longer breathe. No, when he's getting older. So, Deha, body, mind, mana, intellect, buddhi. Any of these three that attack us, saying, this is you, this is you, this is you, therefore you can't be Brahman, preventing us from knowing the truth. Let go of that and know that you are this Brahma. Okay. Now, the first line, we're going to break this. So what is this? Vakyartascha vicharyatam. What are these vakyas? These statements are known as mahavakyas. Anybody know some mahavakyas? Tattvamasi is one. Aham Brahmasmi. We saw that 10 times. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Atma Brahma. Om Tat Sat comes at the end of one of the Upanishads after a Mahavakya. Where's the other one? That's in English. Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam Brahma. So these four are known as the Mahavakyas, or the great statements of the Upanishads. So if you want your intellect's ego to go up, if anybody talks about Upanishads, you say these four Mahavakyas, and you'll feel very good about yourself. It's the essence of the Upanishads. Advaita Vedanta in particular. Okay? I don't know, honestly, I have not studied the commentary in Vishishtadvaita or Dvaita or any other sampradaya, perhaps this is their Mahavakya as well. They've just chosen to interpret it in a different way. But in Advaita Vedanta, all four of these tell the same truth. So it doesn't matter what we say, Tattvamasi, Ayam Atma Brahma, Om Tat Sat, really, Prajnanam. Basically telling you that Tattvamasi, the definition of truth. Okay, so the first one, Gurudev gives it in this order, so I'll just read it this way. The definition of truth is consciousness is Brahman, Prajnanam Brahma, as the first one. The statement of advice, Upadesha, I'm telling you, what is it? That thou art Tattvamasi. So when a teacher tells a student, he is saying, this is the Upadesha Vakya, Tattvamasi, 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 Tattvamasi. You are that. Then, the statement of direct experience, Anubhava Vakya, I know it for myself. Ayam Atma Brahma. This Atma itself is Brahma. Atma is Brahma. The Atma is Brahma. Then it says, the roar of realization. When I know, I am realized. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. It's said that this is how it goes with the student's journey. Sometimes it takes multiple times in multiple places. But this is somebody trying to understand the truth. What is the first statement made? Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is truth. Okay, thank you. What do I do with that? What is that? Tattvamasi. You are that truth. Oh, I am? I didn't know that. Let me think about it. Think. Oh, so Atma, which is what I think I am, is that truth. I am Atma Brahma. Oh, okay. So what does that get me? What's the end product? What's the point? Oh, that Atma is not the Ahankara. The Atma is that Brahman. Therefore, Aham Brahmasmi. So you make the connection step by step. First, it's an objective truth. Prajnanam Brahma. I'm repeating it so we can remember it. First is an objective truth. Prajnanam Brahma. Okay, what does that have to do with me? Tattvamasi. You are that. Okay, I am Prajnanam Brahma, but I thought I was Atma. I am Atma Brahma. Oh, the Atma is Brahma. Oh, that means that Aham that I falsely take to be the BMI, that Aham is that Atma, therefore Aham Brahmasmi. That is realization. We're done. Let's go. So these are known as the Mahavakyas for that reason. They are a condensed way of explaining how spiritual realization happens. Gurudev says, all of them in their togetherness uplift the mind that is steadily contemplating about this deeper and subtler implication. So what Adi Shankaracharya ji did, and I'll end with this, he took these four Mahavakyas and he made four mathas in charge of these Mahavakyas. Okay? Because he didn't want them to go away. He's like, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Actually, he did. But he's like, I need you all to protect the Shastras. Shastra Poshana Rakshana is the purpose of sannyasis. They have to protect it and keep it going by teaching, basically. So these sannyasis took it upon themselves to study, write about, and teach in particular these Mahavakyas. These four mathas. Anybody? Sringeri. Sringeri is the matha where Adi Shankaracharya ji established with Sureshwaracharya ji being the head at the time, one of his main disciples. He had four main and he put them there. And the Mahavakya given in this sampradaya is Tattvamasi. So if you study some of the deeper Vedantic texts of Tattvamasi, Tat is seen as Bhagavan, God. Tvam is this being. Tat Tvam Asi, Aikyam. That's how it's said. That this Bhagwan, so-called God, away from me, is not away from me. Me and Bhagwan are one. So Tattvamasi is what we studied extensively in our course. And then you have Puri Jagannath Ashram, they have theirs. And then you have Dwarka and then Badrinath. So all four have theirs. And if you go and study there or study under their sampradaya, they'll focus on different Mahavakyas. So we'll stop here. This is our last class of the semester. We don't have class next week or the week after. Our Jan 4th is the first class back. And hopefully we will not have forgotten everything. If only thing we remember by then is Aham Brahmasmi, we're golden. And that goes for me too, because holidays are a busy time with lots of family, opportunity for a lot of egos to come up and go down. So hopefully Bhagwan will hold our hand through it all. Hope you all have a wonderful break from regular life and have a good, refreshing time by the time you come back. So we'll finish with Purnamada. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.